going in there, you have to look at your team members. You have to study them individually. That's now a tip for the next round, for the next guys. Study each and every one of the top 10. Know their strengths. Know how to work with them. Not suggesting you manipulate the situation, but somehow, you have to be a player.
So, I don't know, Tim's winning this insurance apprentice. What does it actually feel like to be the winner? Because we're sitting here, not the winner.
So yeah, it was very hectic. I know I'm skinny. I actually lost weight because that film week I actually didn't eat. But being the winner did a lot. So firstly, it reinforced my disbeliefs, because I think in our industry, something that people suffer with the most is imposter syndrome. You ask yourself, can I actually achieve great things? And with me, having won that competition, especially considering the caliber of competition I had to go against, actually reminded myself that actually, I have that talent, and there are a lot of people who haven't entered the competition because they feel, why me? Why would I? So I think with that, firstly, it helped me motivate myself to show that I am actually worthy in this industry. And number two was the purpose I actually entered the competition was to inspire my colleagues back at work. And going back to the office and having that reception and seeing the conversations after that they are actually inspired to be better than what, they thought they could be, has really blessed me.
So you do say that you want to be, or you weren't sure that you were able to do this thing, or you didn't feel worthy of entering or any of those things. What makes you feel like you're worthy of winning this competition? Because you've won it. What does that mean to you? What is the feeling around that?
So, the first elimination round, right? I remember sitting there and we had to introduce ourselves, right? And I stood up I'm Temwa, reinsurance underwriter. And then you stood up and you're like, I'm the director of this. And I'm thinking, what the hell?
I'm just a broker.
Am I in the right room?
Yeah.
And you just hear the caliber of competition that you have to face. And you're like, maybe I'm not cut off for this, And there's also this thing of you enter the competition thinking you know what the judges are looking for, and I think that's a poor approach because you never know what they're looking for. And in that first elimination round, I had doubt, that, maybe I'm not in the right place. And all of us find that in our careers. We've heard so many conversations about it.
Listen, we doubted. We doubted you.
Yeah, but
doubted as in past.
Your past tense only. Sorry, Temwa.
Yeah. But for me, it's just reinforcing that if you really, really want something, and if you put your effort into it, you can get it. Because after I made it through the elimination round, right, in the top 20, I was like, I'm going to kill it. I'm going in A game, right? And something else didn't actually know. For that film week, I never slept. I was always doing research, always plotting how to edge the next competitor. Because the SASRIA episode, oh my goodness, that's when I woke up and said, you know what, I need to come with something,
some fire,
and it is good to win. I am happy I won, but seeing the caliber of competition in the top 10, and that's what I've tried to tell people, that once you make it to the top 10, you've already won, because the benefits we received from just that week of being in the top 10, I was already happy. I was content.
Yeah.
I didn't need to win to verify that I'm good enough.
I think we can see that with the top 10. The guys that we are having conversations with, the people that we're meeting behind the scenes, following the show.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of movement. We've seen some ex-contestants or previous contestants. Muzi obviously judged a couple of them. And probably not harshly. You're not a harsh judge, in my opinion. You're an honest judge. I think that's a big one. So I honestly would say this. I remember having a bit of a brain fart in the show where you were obviously, where SASRIA was doing the task. And I just, I thought it was, I know that I didn't have what it took in terms of my voice and how I portrayed myself. I barely said any words. But then this man comes up and he's got this like whole persona about him. Does that affect it? Does that even? No.
Not at all. Not at all. I knew it was his voice.
I knew I should have won.
He started, stuttering a bit, and because you can't fake that.
Yeah.
So yeah. But in any case, to answer the question, the whole thing about TIA, the insurance industry has never really been an industry where people understood what it is. When you speak of insurance, people think of selling insurance door to door.
Mm.
And I think the beauty of this is that it actually highlights to people. I mean, if you look at all the calibers of all of this director of this, reinsurance, accountants, actuaries, people get to understand that all the different disciplines apply to insurance.
Yeah.
And actually it's a very, very cool place to be in. So for me, that's the biggest value.
Yeah, I think the education aspect of the show itself and just what TIA stands for is quite important. I was a teacher for high school for 2 years for my sins. And it was actually a change in my life because I realized that if we can just get people to understand what we're trying to say, they can be by it to make a difference. And I think education is the basis or the foundation of any stepping stone that we can actually, or is the stepping stone of where we can go next. And what I liked about it is, especially in the series, we've seen a couple of the tasks that get presented on the show, at the bottom, and a lot of people, the audience was giving us ideas, and I'm pretty sure some of them are much better than what we put out there. I don't know. You were on social media. You were very active around the show and everything. Did you see anything that you could pick up from the audience?
Absolutely. But I mean, sitting from the judge's side, anybody can bring any idea, a good idea that we know, but it's all about how you articulate it, how you conceptualize it, and how you deliver it. And when we start questioning, it's where we're trying to connect the dots. So if you are able to connect the dots, it doesn't really matter how good or not so good the idea that you're presenting is. It's all about how what you've presented as a concept, when we test it with our experience and how things should work in practice, if you fail to connect those dots, then there's no amount of good idea that can help you with that.
And that's a huge value add, I think, from TIA as a whole, because you actually can test these things.
Yeah.
They're real scenarios, real situations, things that you guys as SASRIA have stepped in to solve. I mean, when we've got the floods and the fires and everything all over the place and the riots, I think you guys have stepped in a lot, in terms of, I don't think people see that, but you kind of the glue that keeps us together, the players in the insurance industry, the insurers and government.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing, and I think just as a TIA judge, we're very grateful that you can give us your input, because if we can chat to government a little bit, that would be nice,
Sing for our supper.
And sing for our supper. Oh, yes, sing for your supper.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's so great because some parts of the state, for example, CSIR has approached us from the episode and said what was presented there, and what we wrote about it, it's something really great. So they'd like to partner with us.
Wow.
So we are in talks right now with them. Chances are in the near future, we might implement actually an actual TIA. Can you imagine?
That's
an actual TIA episode being implemented where the private sector and government works together to create magic. So
sure.
I think that's the whole beauty of it.
That is a testament to, I think, what it actually stands for. Absolutely. I think if we look at empowering, elevating, and educating the nation of what we're trying to do, and then making an impact from that, I think that's huge. I'm so chuffed that it's actually practical and it's actually working. I mean, I'm shocked, actually. This is the first time I'm hearing this. So this is like...
Well, you were part of it. So you presented something.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, I will take royalties, and I'm not doing the podcast anymore because I've got a job at SASRIA. So
You kind of started through it.
Okay, speaking of which, Rain, what do you think it takes to become the winner of The Apprentice? Because you didn't.
You'd have to ask Temwa.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But in saying that, I think it comes down to finding your true self. There's a lot of the insurance apprentice, which people gab about, and they're very scared about the likes of facing someone very scary like Muzi. But what people don't often realize is that it's not all about having the knowledge. It's not all about having the right answer, but exactly like Muzi said, how you articulate it, how you present it, how you get your idea across, how you work in a team. All of these things really play an integral part in getting to that final top 3, top 10, whatever you
Or top 5. Let's just say top 5 is
for Jason's.
okay, please. But you guys are mentioning like the idea side of things. But I'm interested to know if there's like character traits that an insurance apprentice should actually have. Because like the deeper level of a person, because we often see the task, but there's so much behind the scenes that happens that we know. I mean, we've had conversations.
Can I just say something like that, right? When you get into character traits, I thought Rheinhardt was going to win because I was like, oh man, he's the perfect character, you know. And I remember in the finale, when they were showing our highlights, you know, I'm there. Yeah, I had to form alliances to make it through. And then they cut to Rheinhardt and like, I want to change the world. Oh my goodness. And I'm like, oh, there's the winner.
Yeah.
They're not going to get the survivor guy, you know. So I thought character traits played a huge role. But after that, I'm not so sure. But I'd like to hear from the judge.
Look, character traits are the fundamental basis of what we look at, right? So just generally broadly, and I'm not just talking TIA now, I'm talking just looking at talent whenever you are appointing somebody, for an example, in an organization. So there are 3 levels that you look at. First one is the desire, you know, that burning desire that a person has to do something, like anything really that they're passionate about. So we're talking about passion. So that's one of the biggest traits. The other one, in no particular order, the second one is the one that relates to a person's attitude. So attitude has elements of work ethic, has an element of collaboration, and an element of knowing when to step back and let others take the shine, if it's a shine that's about. So the one who always wants to be right, even if they are right, then it puts them in a position where we can see that this individual might be a star performer, but probably not the right one to promote to this level because of that. The third one is your technical expertise, which is obviously what is required ultimately. But I would not, if you were to ask me, rate them as putting the technical expertise as number 1. I would put the attitude as number 1, the desire as number 2, and the technical expertise as number 3. You can put different weightings on it, obviously, whichever way that is applicable to whatever role that it is. But for this one, it's all about influence. If you're the ambassador, you have to be able to influence because you're representing the entire TIA brand, which we are a friend of, for an example.
Yeah.
It is.
And I think in terms of just as the winner, Temwa, do you think that the best of what you could show came out on the show? Or was it more in line with the teammates and the work that was behind the scenes? Or
when I was there, there was a lot of inexperience because, like, when you're there on the you don't know what to judge.
Yeah, none of us knew.
We don't know who's the best character, you know. And for me, my strategy was just make it as far as you can. You know. And I think we were a very passionate bunch, especially you. Like, your passion was out there.
It was felt.
It was felt.
Well, we felt the passion, Chip. I know.
I cried on camera, so I'm pretty sure that the passion was there.
on the cry.
Yeah, but he pretended to cry a few times, I think.
That was.
I wanted to ask something about that because
I don't know this thing with the little right. I didn't understand that. I thought like, you know, there's an episode of Survivor where there's a guy that his grandma. He said that his grandma died, and he said, no, if you ever visit the show, the family member that comes to the island just needs to say that my grandma died, so everyone can get sympathy votes, right? You know, and he survived right till I think it was like the top 3 or something because his grandma died, and in the reunion show, he said, actually, she's in the audience, you know. So Temwa, I want to ask you, were those real tears?
Those were real tears.
You can be honest with us, Temwa.
Those are actual real tears.
you're among friends.
Yeah.
I'm honest.
Tears of joy.
I'm honest.
Okay, let me ask Rain that. Do you think his tears were real? Because I didn't.
No one believes it.
No one. Tell me, what do you think? Like, because there were a few things that happened, you know, over the time, but we also knew we had our favorites.
Yes.
We had we knew who we wanted to be in the top 3 or the top whatever. And when those people were voted out, I knew I would vote for on that day, and you knew you would vote. So was it really a shock? And would we need tears?
Luckily, I only had to vote one person off. But even going off of that, you immediately know it's something that I think may have cropped up in his late night staying awake sessions and planning episodes,
Plotting.
But I think the relationships we form are real, and that's something that we need to consider as well, because amongst the top 10 that we were, I'm still friends with every one of them, and I wouldn't change that at all.
It's only been a few months.
Exactly, but creating that glue is difficult because you have so many unique and strong personalities, and being able to stay fundamentally glued like that is still, it's fantastic. So I think I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you.
It might have been real tears.
Okay.
Real tears.
For one
Yeah, you'll give him a pass. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah, take it.
Behind the scenes, prepping for the show, I did a lot of prep. So you guys know I was sending quotes on our little WhatsApp group before each of the days. And, I was reading all the self-help books and all sorts of stuff. I wish the judges saw all the behind the scenes stuff, because maybe I would have ended up a little bit further down the line. But at the end of the day, that stuff, the preparation I put in maybe meant something, but it wasn't the be-all and end-all, because you can't prepare for what the Insurance Apprentice actually throws at you. And I realized it was more of a competition where I had to be aware of the people around me, more than necessarily the task at hand and the problem that we're trying to solve. And so, Muzi, I don't know if you want to jump in there. You've seen us do our homework behind the scenes and stuff, but do you think that that's a major factor? Because I really worried before I entered the competition. I really worried about what was going to happen in the time, and I thought, am I prepared enough? Do I know enough? Am I technical enough? I mean, I'm sitting next to guys in the insurance companies that I'm in a broker at a broker level. We don't see much of that side. So I don't know what you could add to that, John.
Yeah, look, I went around looking to see what the teams were doing, and I think the perfect example is Shivani's episode. Very gracefully, she voted herself out, but that's a very good example of, she had an episode before in the previous round, and then she came the second time and needed to improve from what she had done maybe wrong in the previous round. But then it became an issue of, I need to see. Once that comes across, you put yourself in a position where all eyes are on you, and how you act and everything you do you'll be judged based on that. Whereas if you put yourself in the team and you all consider everybody and you act as a team, regardless of how you feel about certain things, that is what could save you, because you're still moving on until you have the top three. Each and every person sings for their supper. But before that, collaboration is key, and how you handle yourself and how you even save others. I think what Shivani did was very bold of her to do, and I think it was the right decision. If she didn't, it probably wouldn't have worked out as best as it is right now. I looked at it, I was like, wow, that's really commendable. And I think everybody felt the same way. So definitely going in there, you have to look at your team members. You have to study them individually. That's now a tip for the next round, for the next guys. Study each and every one of the top 10. Know their strengths, know how to work with them. I'm not suggesting you manipulate the situation, but somehow, you have to be a player in this situation.
There is a definite game side to it where you actually do, it's not manipulation. I think in a game show, you can't, or a competition like this, you can't call it manipulation.
True.
You all have a similar goal, but it's your own goal. Yet you have to work with some people to get there. So it's a very strange scenario to kind of be in. But I think for me, if I had this advice one episode earlier, I could have maybe stayed, because I did disagree with my team. We were standing, and you were to my team that day, eh? Was it just Temwa, or was it the three of us?
No, in the previous episode, they did let you know that Jason.
Yeah, that I'm saying. Oh.
No, they told you the team.
Oh, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was always great.
And then you did it again the next episode.
Oh man, okay. So I guess this is an intervention.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
On a point of contestation, you definitely disagree.
I'm just saying I do still disagree. So we are over the 2024 season, although you've got a whole year of being the winner. What next for you guys just this year, leading up to the next season, and yeah, what's in it for the year from the TIA? I mean, we've got so much exposure, PR, our personal brands have grown. What that brings me to ask, what impact are you actually going to be making?
Elevate, educate, empower. It's in the slogan. I think one thing I'm really passionate about is teaching. And I think, like I said in my speech, all 10 of us had a very valuable contribution. And win or lose, it doesn't mean that you can't contribute to the industry because you didn't make it first.
Which I struggled with.
Yeah.
I want to make an impact.
And I think when you eliminated, I had that conversation with you to say this is not the end of the journey. And I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. Because when I read the magazine and saw everyone's interview, it was apparent that everyone had some value that they obtained from that. And it was very apparent that they also had value that they can give back to the industry. And I mean, seeing this podcast, it's a very good way to start. And one thing I want to do is continue that, right? And leave that legacy behind for the next set of contestants, that if you don't make it to top one, doesn't mean that you can't add value to the industry. By all means, you made it that far. You can continue to contribute. And me personally, that's what I want to show.
Well, you mentioned inspiring others.
Yeah.
You've done it already. So.
Exactly. So my vision is to collaborate with as many of us in the top 10 as possible to show them that, listen, we can still add value wherever you ended, And I'm open to taking projects that people have started. I'll be open to be that person to say, listen, let's try and make this project work. There are some projects, obviously, I also want to work on, but keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, well, definitely will. I think this is the platform where we need to catch up on these things to see what impact we're actually making in the industry as a whole. Rain, what are your plans?
I'd love to have conversations like this. So, I mean, if we take a look at where our industries come from and where it's going, I have such high hopes and optimism just because I see all the potential within our industry. And I think something that Muzi once mentioned is that he wants the industry to collaborate. And I had a brief chat to Bukosi, our IIG president, as well. And I feel like the industry itself has so much to offer, and we operate segmented and in silos. And I don't understand why, because everything that we offer each other has a collaborative and a shared value amongst us all. And that's the talks that I want to have. That's the conversations that I want to have. That's the meetings that I want to attend, because those are the things that make a difference to our industry. When we talk about resilience, we talk about a group, not just an individual.
Yeah.
And our industry as a group is what we need to focus on. Because if you take a look at what we're being hit with, the news is doom and gloom. Fires, it's floods, it's riots. I mean, the reinsurers have never been harder on the industry than
everyone feels.
Everyone. It's not just a insurance and a broker thing. The consumer feels.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take a look at your pocket's being hit hard. So the only way that we can rein all of that in is by having these discussions and by involving everyone from consumer to reinsurer. And that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think we've started that with an insurance platform. It is, yeah. I think it is really cool.
Yeah.
Muzi, these guys can say all of this stuff, and they want to make an impact in the areas that they are in. Just as somebody with years of experience in the industry, with just a head on you that's got so much knowledge and good advice and stuff like that. What would you say in the industry would be the thing we should tackle to try and get some sort of positive change going?
It's a good question. I think it all starts with, which I'm going to link this to the individuals who are entering the competition and what the industry in itself actually ought to be doing. So there's a concept of competitive advantage, which talks to your value proposition that is better than competition, right? And it makes people to be able to do better than others, right? Which is good. Every company should do that. However, there's also a concept of collaborative advantage, which if you think of it, all it says is that it says that you maximize the value of your proposition as an industry, not as an individual, particularly in areas where you have sovereign issues that could benefit everybody, right? So if you look at it from that perspective, it's a matter of, an analogy would be that if you have at a particular location, a shop where you're selling something, right? And you've done your research and everything works there. It's a matter of whether there's a 50% chance of somebody buying or not buying, right? But if you have another business that could also put the store next to that location, it's now a matter of 100% choice of buying, but 50% chance of going that way or that way. So the impact of that is that instead of 50% chance of somebody buying and adding into the economy flow of cash, you now have a 100% chance of a flow of cash to go that way or the other way. The bottom line is that the industry wins. So if you look at that as an analogy, collaborative advantage enhances value that is offered by different entities that have a particular competitive advantage. So if you take that analogy and you bring it to the concept of what TIA is trying to do as well, is that you need to be a holistic individual that looks at the bigger picture. Because most people who might have not made it, they made it about themselves, or they became so good at being competitive, but competition can only go as far as the limitation of your proposition. But if you bring everybody else and you collaborate and you juxtapose those two, there will always be a gap above that could be missing on individual stances, whereas if it's collaborative, then it's higher. So I think industry as a whole, that's why where we sit as a SASRIA, we sit right in the middle. You have the state, which has big capacity, has the fiscus, because there's no amount of money bigger than the fiscus, right? But at the same time, you have the industry, which is very effective, very efficient in how they do things. Imagine the value of capacity with that industry expertise and industry effectiveness and efficiency. When it's brought together, and that's where we're sitting in the middle. We try to be the glue. And I think as a concept, if we look at it as an industry that way and government is that way, I think there's a lot more we could do together.
Oh, I'd like to have the glue sitting right with us. Because that helps a lot, in the conversations.
Are you prepared for the unexpected? SASRIA offers cover for riots, strikes, and civil commotion. Ensure that you are covered for what matters most. When things go bad, SASRIA makes good. Visit SASRIA today at sasria.co.za.
So for me, the question, I'm going to start with you, Rain. I think, what issue do you see in this industry that we need to actually focus on a little bit more as an industry? And there are many.
Yeah. Look, okay. When you say it like that, it sounds very doom and gloom.
It does. It does.
So let's start off with just some positive on that. Our industry is very good at what it does.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you also have to consider the fact that we deal with the unforeseeable. A lot of the things that we deal with are things that you can't compute. You can assume, you can base your theory on probability, but a lot of these things are just inherently
out of your control.
It happens as it happens.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to that is also reflected in our industry. At any one stage, it's always a system of change. We're in a perpetual cycle of change because we're always adapting and reacting. And sometimes too harshly, sometimes not quick enough. And I think in that case, the thing that I'd like to focus on, bearing that in mind, is that collaboration between our various entities, our legislative bodies, SASRIA, FSCA, FIA, TIA. If we can collaborate and share that knowledge on a cross-platform, I already believe that we would enhance one of our lives. We've got titans in the industry, Muzi being one of that.
Temwa being another one, because he won.
He's getting there. And that's the thing. We have titans in this industry that can add so much knowledge, not just within their silo. And, Muzi mentioned someone who's a specialist, but who can add their 5 Rand or 10 cents to another silo, who can drastically improve that silo. And the new voyage or venture that Muzi was touching on with CSIR, taking a hold of something that originated within Muzi's idea framework and was conceptualized here in TIA is fantastic, because that's something that adds real value to real people. And that's what we want to do. So that's what I want to focus on.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think from just in a deeper level, the systemic issues that we face as an industry, I think I've seen it in my own workplace where, I wish there's a bit of a skills gap. There's certain things that I can notice from the young professionals in the industry to the bullies that have been there forever, And Temwa, what type of issues are you looking to maybe start the conversation on, and that we can talk about at this table?
Yeah. So I think for me, the biggest one, and that's something that I've been passionate about in my whole career, and that's the education gap, Usually you find that people don't have the context as to what insurance is, why they need it, and you find that the main issue there is they don't have the context, or they haven't had access to that knowledge, and seeing our broad skills, we can give that conversation. I've referred a few clients to you, who didn't know what a broker is, and what the benefit of a broker actually does, even talking about basic insurance. I remember during the KZN riots, where there was a lot of businesses that were affected and they didn't know what SASRIA is. And then you have to have that conversation. And you don't want to have that conversation in hindsight.
No.
It's better to be in the forefront and give that education there and then. And it's not just education from a client perspective, but it's also education on the skills that are in the industry. Asking them, listen, are you registered for as a member of the IISA? And do you know what that means? Do you know what CPD is, continuous performance development, and how that can assist you? The skills gap, how can you actually get to the next level? And I think with us, we are in the fortunate position where we found value in the insurance apprentice. We knew that we were going to get a lot of perspectives. And there's a lot of people who don't have that view. And I think for me, it's giving that perspective to them, giving them that knowledge, firstly to the professionals that, hey guys, there's a lot you can learn in this industry. It's not just claims and premiums.
Yeah.
And also teaching the man on the ground to say, listen, don't cancel your car insurance the next day because someone else told you. There's actually real value in insurance. You just need to speak to the right person. You need to know how to get to the right person if you feel you're not serviced properly. So I think with me, it's the education.
Yeah. It's multifaceted, I think.
Exactly. There are so many people who are not insured. Not that because they can't get insurance, but because they feel they don't need it. And I think giving that education is extremely important. And, in the finance industry, it's all about Forex and, no one really thinks about protecting their assets. So that is my gripe that I want to press on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, it's education too. I think there's such a need for it. It's not even just education. It's also just putting the people in the right places to let them learn from people, like mentorship, mentorship and just guidance. Because if I didn't have the 3 mentors that really walked a road with me for the last 10 years, I wouldn't be where I am today. And they really imparted a lot of knowledge and expertise into my situation over and above what I actually learned in a book, and learned on a piece of paper through my CPD and all those other things. So I really love the education thing, and I like the conversation. Bring people together, educate each other, and then let's make something happen. Muzi, I'm going to leave the last word to you. I would love to know what, and I'll maybe rephrase the question a little bit. What is your burden in this industry, and what is really on your heart to not only change but to impact?
Yeah. I'd say inclusivity, but I'll qualify that just so that you understand exactly what I mean. I think one of the biggest threats we're sitting with currently in South Africa is youth unemployment, right? And we obviously have the highest Gini coefficient in the world. So the disparity between those who have and those who don't have is quite high. But I feel like there's a lot that we can do to cover the gap in respect of youth unemployment. Because all it does, if you look at social sciences, is that individuals who don't have much or don't have much to do or don't have much to lose particularly, they tend to behave in a particular way when they feel like they've lost the sense of who they are, sense of identity, sense of worth in a sense. And being in the space that I operate in, where we need to ensure the behavior of disgruntled individual, you can understand the psychology of that to say that. So how do you then get to speak to individuals who don't have much to lose to behave in a way as if they have much to lose? Now, that's now a conundrum in itself, right? So then obviously it means then that you don't necessarily need to create immediate employment for people, because that's not really going to be conducive. The number of people that are unemployed versus what's potentially available out there, the numbers don't work out. But is to create platforms in situations where you can give individuals a sense of worth. An example I'll give you is what we're trying to do. We are talking to eThekwini, because KZN is one of those areas where we had biggest problems in terms of social unrest. And we went back to study to understand why that is, to uncover that. There's certain theories we've come up with, and I think that's probably deserves a podcast in itself. Right, as a concept.
Episode 3.
But the bottom line is that an example would be, this is an example for now because we're still in talks. An area like KwaMashu, you have land that is owned by the municipality, and that land being still owned by the municipality, but be given to people like SASRIA, for an example, to help the youth within that environment. But 200 unemployed individuals, for an example, that could be taken care of there. The land, we work with farmers, many farmers who put up their hands and say, we will come and help to plow the land, get it ready. And then you do like cash crops, like vegetables, right? You say, this is yours. Then you have offtake agreements with the spaza shops everywhere in this very same township.
Wow.
Now you can imagine those 200 individuals who now been given sense of worth, sense of doing something every day, and they own it. They cultivate it, they harvest, they go sell that, they make a living, right? Something really small. It wouldn't even cost much, even for a company like SASRIA to put something together like that. Now, what that does in the psychology of those individuals is that when there's a protest, you always have the primary players who probably be moving these individuals to get involved because they know that you can. But those secondary players, if they are given a sense of worth, they wouldn't do that. They would say, not in our area. This is ours. This is our livelihoods. You will not come into our space to protest. We will not go to other places to protest. The snowball effect of that is that you have a stable society and you haven't really fixed the issue of youth unemployment. You've just given people sense of dignity, then build from that. But obviously, I'll leave it at that for now. But for me, that's my biggest gripe. There's a lot of studies that we're doing as to what this means and how we could fix that, obviously.
I think to close, for me, you've highlighted something that I've never, ever given thought of or thought to. The word empowerment has just been given a new definition in my mind. An actual, because I think that is a different conversation completely. And we will definitely have that conversation. But I feel like you have empowered people in that community to give them and not through here's something, but here's some sense of self-worth. Here's some sense of sense of self, bottom line, and it's not something. It's sense of self. Yeah. And I think that is the impact that is empowering, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're still in talks though, so we haven't implemented. But the idea is to create something like that and then just spread it countrywide, pretty much.
Look, ideas start somewhere.
That's how you sit with the glue.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But ideas do start somewhere, and I think we have started well.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on this little platform that hopefully can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Well, you said it yourself. So you're combining all the different silos into one. So got a big potential to be big.
Let's keep going. Brand new next.
Thank you.